Everyone, you are watching Robbs MetalWorks. Welcome back to the Big Metal Show. And tonight, what a special episode we have for you as we welcome back the man, Mr. Billy Milano, legendary voice from New York City. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. Gracias, amigo.
Great to have you back. And we surely have something special for all the people around the world tonight, as we're going to talk about the band that really kind of started your career, the band called S.O.D, Stormtroopers of Death. And I put this in a post, and I'm going to share it with you as we start. And I put in the post, I said, you know, I've interviewed Billy a couple of times, and I've hung out with him, and I've never really felt comfortable prying into S.O.D or asking you about S.O.D.
Right.
And I just, because I know that, there's some contention there. And I thought, I don't want to muddy our mood or bring back any bad feelings or anything like that. But as we sit here in 2025, why do you feel it's the right time now to come out and talk about S.O.D?
Well, thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, it's the 40-year anniversary for S.O.D, and I just have had nothing but bad experiences with the circle of the people in the band and their management and their booking agent, which have colluded together and always done unethical business.
Right.
And I noticed that, everyone's getting ready to do their own tribute band, but I do understand that there was some financial discrepancies, and there's been some really deep insults going back and forth, which lead back to people taking part of my business. Like a lot of people don't know is that, and you already know because you saw contracts I showed you, that I am 1/4 owner of S.O.D with mutually agreed upon.
Right.
And so when I say I don't want to do it, it has to legally and lawfully stop.
Right.
And these guys have done nothing but license deals and never account to us. And Danny Looker he'd go on tour for a 6-pack of beer and weed.
Sure.
But I'm a business person.
Yeah.
And I'm a very good human being.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I think I've had enough.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate this opportunity to be truthful. And of course, since it's on video, it's applicable in a courthouse. And I'd be more than happy to have it.
We're going to talk all about that as we get there. But I kind of also, too, I think people also, too, want to know, because I don't even really know. I just remember back in 1985, fucking, Speak English or Die came out and boom, it blew up and it became a mainstay in metalheads' cassette tapes and record labels back in the day.
Cassettes.
Yeah. And and I think it's also important to talk about the beginnings of that relationship. So, how did you first meet the guys in S.O.D?
Interesting. Okay.
Because were you in a band called the Psychos?
I was the bass player for a band called the Psychos, and we were opening for Agnostic Front at CBGB's. So I was aware of the band Anthrax,
right?
Because Rob Kabula, who was the bass player for Agnostic Front at the time and plays for Dead Blow Hammer now. So Rob Kabula turned me on to their record, and I said to myself, this stuff is really interesting. It's fucking metal as heavy fuck. And I listened to everything back then. But I was at CBGB's, and I went to go put my bass backstage. So you walk in the club, and you got to walk past the inside of the door where Hilly Crystal sat, and Karen Crystal, because I was a bouncer at CBGB's and all the New York hardcore shows back in the day. And I walked in, and I looked to my right, and I see all these like heavy metal guys with long hair and leather coats like this, like in a chicken coop, stuck up in the front. So when you walked into CBDB's, you walked in, and then you made a right to the bar where it was fenced off from the crowd. And then you had to make a right to walk all the way back up to the entrance where you could be in the corner by the security, where you're fenced in. So they basically huddled together, and it was Anthrax and Metallica. So Metallica was playing L'Amour's 2 days in a row.
Did they do that because there was just a bunch of skinheads there?
Yeah, they were terrified.
They were scared of all the skinheads.
And I looked at him and I walked in and I said, what the fuck is going on in here? Because it's a skinhead show. I put my bass backstage and I walk out and they're all like this, looking at everyone like, we're going to get killed here.
But all those dudes, like even though they were metal dudes, they were getting into hardcore.
Yeah,
they were discovering hardcore.
Absolutely. And it was because of me protecting them that they always liked the Misfits, James and Kurt and Cliff always liked the Misfits. And as I walked out, I looked at them and they looked at me all nervous because I was I was big then. You know, I was terrifying. And I walked outside to Rob Kabula and I said, Kabula, who the fuck are the heavy metal guys in the club? And he said, remember that band I played you, Anthrax? That's them with the guys Metallica. I go, oh, they got balls coming in here. He goes, Billy, they're going to get jumped. People are talking about jumping them, so they're scared. So I said, okay, who's going to tell him? Who's telling you this? And he said it was this guy from Long Island. So I walked in. I walked right up to him. I'm like, hey, you guys. And they were like this. Like, you know, you jumped out of a movie and went, boo. And I said, listen, there are a bunch of guys here that are going to jump and start some shit with you. So just chill out and hang tight. And I'll go talk to him for you.
Yeah.
And I walked up to this guy who was the main guy from the Strong Island crew that was in CB's.
Wow.
I said, look, you're really going to do this to this club? Number one, it's the Hells Angels Club. Because Hilly was Hells Angels. Number two is, this is our club. And I don't want you to do it. And you know if you do it, we're going to have a problem. And my friend, Big Charlie Hawkins, a huge black guy, one of the first black skinheads in New York City, I brought him in from Queens to hang out. Because he did, good dude. He was... Unfortunately, has passed, but a very, very, very good man. He walked over. I'm like, I go, you see this guy? He goes, no one's doing nothing. And he said, okay, Billy, we'll calm down. I go, listen, you go outside for a while and calm down or go home. And you can come back in later. And they literally walked out, all 14 of them, and went outside and just chilled the fuck out. I walked up to those guys from Anthrax and Metallica. I go, listen, no one's going to fuck with you. We got your back. And they were like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm talking with them. And now I have to go play. I go, listen, I got to go play next. and I'm going to be done. You guys are safe in the club. Everyone got the word from us. So I'm sitting there playing hardcore punk rock. I was a hardcore punk. And we're playing hardcore punk rock songs. And the last song we do as our encore is Summertime Blues by Blue Cheer. Mm-hmm. And I start playing, and out of the back of the room, Cliff Burton runs up in freaking bell-bottom jeans into the mosh pit, and he's going like this, headbanging to Summertime Blues.
Wow.
And we're playing Ain't No Cure for, he's singing the Summertime Blues, and we finish the song, thank you, good night. We finished the song. I turn around, I unplug my rig, and he's still standing there. I go, you okay? He goes, dude, you're an awesome bass player. I said, well, I'm okay. I'm just doing it. I have fun with it. He goes, and that's what made it awesome.
Yeah.
And so I met Cliff Burton, and he gave me the nod. And he was wearing bell-bottom pants. So, let me finish this story.
Yeah, go ahead. I know.
I walked back up to those guys, and Gnostic Front's playing. And I said to you guys, look, you're hanging out in the corner here. Come forward and sit, at least come and join the mosh pit. Stand in the back of it and watch the show.
That's probably
so
worse.
So now I walk them all up to the back of the pit in CBGB's, and I see this. They're moshing for a Gnostic Front, and I see this. I see this big poof of blonde hair. It's James Hetfield. His hair is flashing back and forth. And we're like this. I look at my friend Jimmy. I'm like, dude, we're going to do chicken fights. And I walk over to him. I go, yo, dude, get on my shoulders. He's like, what do you mean? I grabbed him by his hips because he was like 90 pounds. Yeah. He was wearing his sister's pants. And I put James Hetfield on my shoulders.
Wow.
And we moshed chicken fights in the mosh pit. And he was thrashing his head in the mosh pit.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fucking amazing. Wow. After the show, because they said thank you and everyone said hello to them and they were getting welcome into the club, I spoke again with Kirk and with Cliff Burton and James.
Yeah.
And I go up to Scotty and I'm starting to talk to him about this stuff. He's going, well, you know, we're doing a hardcore side project. This is how S.O.D. started.
Right.
I go, you need a bass player? He goes, no, we need a singer. I said, I'll sing. He goes, can you sing? I said, well, I can't play bass, and I just got off a fucking stage in front of a room full of people. I'll learn to sing.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay. And he goes, you're exactly what we want. And so that's how I got into S.O.D. So I protected them, and that's what I've been doing all those years.
Yeah. So real quick, just on the story part, I think those dudes, because I just said, they were listening. I know they were listening to a lot of hardcore. The Anthrax guys were. Were they there? Do you think they were there mainly just to check out the vibe and the scene of the hardcore scene, or were they there really because they love the music?
I think they went there to see a Gnostic Front because they had a day off because it's Sunday.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think James Hetfield and those guys who are Misfits fans and they like the Exploited and Discharge, who are very important to thrash metal, they all said to themselves, well, we'd really like to see this band.
Yeah.
So, it was an amazing experience. And to have it culminate into me joining S.O.D. was amazing.
I remember back in the day, Kirk wore like this Discharge shirt for a long time. I remember like a lot of photos from that era. He had a Discharge shirt on.
Yeah, he was definitely a hardcore fan.
Yeah.
And remember the band, the Crumbsuckers?
Yeah.
The Crumbsuckers were playing
That's
CBGBs.
with Gary Meskill.
Yeah, Gary Meskill.
Yeah.
Crumbsuckers were playing CBGBs, and I was talking with Kurt Hammond, who was hanging out with Johnny Z, because Johnny Z was thinking about signing the Crumbsuckers. And I said, dude, Kirk, go on stage and jam with those guys. And he walked up and talked to him, and he said, yeah, I know these guys. I can play this stuff. He can wing it. And he gets on stage with the Crumbsuckers, and someone spit on him and called him a rock star. And so I choked him and dragged him out of the room. But Kirk Hammond actually jammed with the Crumbsuckers.
Oh, wow.
Yep, it was amazing.
So when Scott said, hey, we need a singer, and you were like, all right, did you decide to join because you had the Anthrax guys were coming up, and you just kind of felt it was cool?
No, I mean, here's the opportunity. Remember something. We're New York hardcore.
Right.
So, like, I would spend, when I was in my first band, Hinckley's Fan Club, I spent 6 months making copies of cassettes from cassette to cassette machines, and I would run 4 of them in sync. So I would make cassettes for everybody and hand them out to everybody. And then I had an opportunity to do Method of Destruction. So MOD was started in 1983 originally.
Right.
And the guys that I was doing a Hinckley's Fan Club with, we merged and became the new band Cause for Alarm, the original Cause for Alarm New York hardcore band. And then I wound up doing MOD, and Cause for Alarm got Keith Burkhart to sing for Cause for Alarm. And so there's that whole interbred thing. Like, I replaced Roger Moret as the bass player for the Psychos because he left the Psychos to replace Diego for a Gnostic Front as the singer. So it was very incestuous because it was such a small music scene. And I mean, I did it because they said they were going to record a record. Now, I had recorded with the Psychos. If you go online, you go on my website, milanomosh.com, you can see the Psychos demo up there. And I recorded with Don Fury, of all people, who did the Bad Brains and a Gnostic Front. So I recorded with a legend to do the Psychos, but as the bass player. And they were saying, we have a real studio we're going to. It's a big studio. And it was Pyramid Sound with Alex Perialis. And I said, fuck it, I'll do it. So I said, I'd love to record in the recording studio and see what it's. I mean, the only experiences you get is what you try to achieve.
Sure.
And so it was an opportunity to go into a recording studio and record with them, which was an amazing session, by the way.
And Alex Perialis is alive and well, people.
Yeah, he's still up in Ithaca.
He's alive and well.
And he's still running Pyramid Sound. He's a professor of music and music theory in Ithaca College. And I'm going to get him to mix the new MOD EP at the end. So we're going to go up and finish the MOD EP with Alex Perialis.
All right.
Where I started.
All right. So you joined SOD. 1985 saw the release of Speak English or Die. And obviously, like I just mentioned, it was a huge success. Were you surprised by how well that record did? At that time.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had nothing to gauge it against. There was no charts that I was reading. You know, there was no internet to look at. You know, your internet was looking at your friend and handing them a cassette. That was how you networked.
Right.
But I knew when I went up there to do that record, we had 3 days to record. So I'm like, you know, warming up. And the first day, Scott's going, we're going to go I'm going to start recording today. He goes, why don't you take it easy in the hotel? So I stayed in the hotel and I went to a place to go eat called Captain Joe's.
And y'all recorded in Ithaca?
Yeah, at Alex Perialis' studio, Pyramid Sound. And I ate 144 clams at the clam shack, and I drank 9 Guinnesses. And I went to the hotel room, and I was laying there sleeping.
You ate, then you went to the hotel room.
Yeah. Then you got to understand something. A hotel room for a hardcore band is your van. Right. And so I'm sleeping, and the door opens at 2 a.m. I go, and I see Scott. I'm like, Scott, how'd it go? He goes, good, you're up tomorrow. I go, what do you mean? He goes, we're done. I go, what did you get done? The drums? He goes, no, everything. Guitars, bass, and drums, one day.
Wow.
I go, you're kidding me. I'm like, what kind of fucking record is this going to be? They recorded the whole record in one day. So the next day I go in there, and he goes, let's get your headphone mix. And he gets a headphone mix for me, Alex Perialis. And I put it on. And I hear this record, and I'm like, man, these motherfuckers can really play. I mean, that's the one thing. Like, I don't like them as people, but they are fucking awesome musicians. And that S.O.D. stuff, which was so simple to play, or so simple in structure and catchy, it was like happy, retarded punk rock, hardcore. And I said to myself, man, this has potential to do something.
That was before the word crossover even existed.
Yeah, well, the whole thing, like DRI is credited for being the first crossover band because of their style.
Right.
But it wasn't crossover style that is being accredited. It's the crossover of mixing of two music scenes. Like I was a New York hardcore singer and bass player. So I was a hardcore legend because I sang in Hickley's fan club. I played bass in the Psychos, and I was a bouncer at CBGB's, and I was one of the New York skinheads everyone knew. And so to put us directly with metal people, not guys that like both, metal people. I mean, there were metal people. Even Danny Looker had long hair. And it was totally unique to itself. And I felt to myself like, you know, the amalgamation of what we are collectively as people. There's two different philosophies here, but it comes and it meshes together as a single thought when it becomes the music. And I heard that music. I sang the whole record in one day. We took the 4th of July off and we went on Alex Perialis' boat, and he literally made me piss in my pants. He was so scary. I mean, I pissed in my pants. They were wet, but I'm like, dude, I'm pissing in my pants. I'm scared. This guy's doing 90 on a fucking boat on a lake in Lake Cayuga in Ithaca. And he's like, oh, give me a beer. I'm like, you're not getting a beer, dude. You're pulling over and you're getting a DUI. But we mixed it in one day. And it was, after that, it was history.
Yeah. But did you ever see that coming? Did you think the record was that good?
Never. I mean, I knew what they were doing and what we were doing was great. Because a lot of it was off the cuff. Like I said, hey, let's do this song like this. The Ballad of Jimi Hendrix. Bam, 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 bam. You're dead. So I was like, I gave them the Ballad of Jimi Hendrix. And when they were recording, I'm like, you know what we should do? We should take this first song, Sergeant D is coming and you're on the list, and you should try to work out an intro for it. And Scott's like, just use these riffs. I used the same riff and just deconstruct it and write the intro. And he wrote March of the S.O.D. after I asked him to do it. Wow.
Interesting.
There's a lot from that I did too. Like I named it Stormtroopers of Death. Scott wanted to use the Diseased. And We're the Diseased as the name of the record. Because they did Spreading the Disease. And we kept all their gear on. We just turned their gear on, which was mic'd, and the desk was there, and it just sounded like S.O.D. And I'm like, dude, I'm not the Diseased. Why don't we use this? Why don't we use the Stormtroopers of Death? And Scott said, yeah, we could use that. And then he goes, we're the disease. I'm like, look, we don't have a disease, and we're not part of that disease. Let's use Speak English or Die. Let's tell everyone, fuck you. And he goes, fine, we'll do that. And so I made him use Stormtroopers of Death. I made him use Speak English or Die. I made him write the intro for March of the S.O.D. Then when we did the album cover, I made them take a picture of the camouflage and put it around the album cover to border it so that it looked like, paramilitary.
Right.
So I don't get any credit for that. And Scotty, and all he does is say, I named it S.O.D. No, I named it S.O.D.
Right.
Yeah, he's a fucking liar.
Yeah. I think a little of what you just said kind of leads into my next question. Obviously, and I've shared this too online, is that, you've always kind of had your own personality, this boisterous type of in-your-face, blunt kind of shoot from the hip personality. And I think a lot of fans and people have been able to adhere to that. They understand it. They like it instead of the facade. What do you think it's about your personality that people connect with?
They understand that when I talk to them, I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
I don't have to lie because
Right.
I don't give a fuck. So it's just like the whole persona of Billy Milano, which is a character.
Right. Right.
I'm an entertainer.
Right.
It started with wrestling in high school. So I did a couple of dark matches and I needed a name. And Jimmy Gestapo from Murphy's Law came up to me at 16 years old. And I'm sitting there on the sidewalk drinking milk and eating cookies. And he says to me, every time I see you, you're eating those goddamn cookies. You should just change your name to Billy Milano. And it went like this. I gave him a cookie. And that's what I did 2 dark matches in high school as Billy Milano.
Oh, wow.
And I turned into corporal punishment when I put my mask on.
What do you mean by dark matches? Like
The opening matches of wrestling.
Oh, okay.
So like when wrestling came through this high schools and it was
You're
like...
talking about entertainment wrestling.
Yeah, I'm talking about like Ric Flair and all those guys.
Yeah.
When they came through in high school, I did 2 dark matches, but I couldn't do it as my name from high school. My teacher said, you have to come up with a character name. And I said, okay, I got it. And so I came up with Billy Milano, thanks to Jimmy Gestapo from Murphy's Law. And I turned it to corporal punishment when I put my mask on. And I got my ass kicked twice. And I'm like, I'm not doing this again. But I think people relate to me because I'm humble. I'm dignified. I'm truthful. I'm not abusive. But more importantly, if you're an asshole, I say it to your fucking face. And they know not to go there.
Right.
So everyone likes me. I mean, even, I remember sitting down with Daryl from Pantera. And everyone calls him Dimebag. His fucking name was Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
And Daryl said to me, hey, Billy, can I talk to you for a second? And he dropped the fucking Daryl and talked to me, the Dimebag, and talked to me like Daryl.
Yeah.
People talk to me very real because they know I'm going to listen.
And Dimebag was his character.
Dimebag was his character.
Right.
Daryl sat down with me very, very humbly.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Then you put him in front of people. He's like, yo, get your pool on. He tried to kiss me. I was like, ah.
Yeah.
And he gave me my platinum records at the Galaxy Club.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
I do want
so
those.
so did the Eagle up there, the big radio station.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing all these stories, man. They're priceless. So again, I think you alluded to the fact that, MOD started really early on in the late 80s, like 88.
83.
83, right. So after kind of you guys did the cycle for Speak English or Die, kind of everybody went back to doing their thing. So you went back to MOD and Danny went back to Nuclear Assault. And of course, Scott and Charlie went back to Anthrax. And then many years later, you guys did several one-offs, right? In the early 90s?
We actually did 3 shows. We did...
The Live at the Budokan?
No. In the 80s, in 85, when the record came out, we did 3 shows with Overkill.
Okay.
We did Dover Showplace. We did City Gardens in Trenton.
This was still the 80s.
Yeah, and we did Yonkers, I think it was. Or something like... No, not Yonkers. We did City Gardens. I think we did do Yonkers. We did the SOD's a luau party where we had surfboards and fucking we did noodles and handed out lays. But we only did 3 shows, and then I was like, these guys are assholes. The guys in Anthrax, they were just scumbags.
Right. And so
And by that I mean Charlie and Scott.
Yeah, yeah. And so you were able to kind of, remove yourself from that. But still, what I was referencing was even after that.
Yeah, we did a couple of one-offs.
Yeah, there was the Live at the Budokan.
That was in 1992.
92.
Yeah.
Then in 96, you did Irving Plaza with Biohazard.
Yeah, we did a benefit for Gloria Cavalera, whose son was killed.
Yep.
Yep. We did that with Biohazard.
Yep.
And we wanted to do something to say, and I wanted to do something.
Yep, I remember when that happened.
I wanted to do something to show respect. And so that's why I did it, because
yeah. They fucking murdered him.
Yes, they did. They ran him off the road.
Yep.
They ran him off the road.
Yep.
And the cops hit it.
Yep. And then you did Milwaukee Metal Fest, I think the year after that.
That's right. We did the Milwaukee Metal Fest in 1997. Now,
are you sure it was in 99?
Yeah, it was 97. Because I had my fire in my studio in Hoboken.
Oh.
So, like, what I was doing in between MOD and not doing SOD was managing. I managed the Gnostic Front. I got them. I produced their record, Something's Gotta Give.
Yeah.
I built the Unity Fest tour for them. I sat down with Epitaph Records and I built the Punkorama tour for them. So I was really deep into doing behind-the-scenes management. I was working with bands that got signed, like the Step Kings, who got signed to Roadrunner. I was working with bands and getting them up and running and prepped to go on to get into the music scene. And I had been working on an MOD record when I had my fire in my studio in Hoboken. And so I went on the road with S.O.D. to go to Milwaukee Metal Fest, and we did like Cincinnati. We did a couple of shows. And I remember doing that show and walking into the room, and the cigarette smoke was dripping off the ceiling and the sweat in this Eagle room or something, Eagle Ballroom, and it was disgusting. But we played that show, and I was very honored to be there because my friend Debbie Obono, who was one of my best friends, I miss her. Like, if I could bring anyone back, I'd bring her back. She was honest and very kind. I loved Debbie Obono. I was very happy that she was there with her friend Angie, because a bunch of bands played that I got to see again. I'll tell you a great Milwaukee Metal Fest story.
Go for it.
I get off the tour bus, and I'm getting ready to stretch to go inside, and I look, and I see the bus behind me. The door opens, and it's Paul Bailoff gets off with his hockey jersey.
You and Paul Bailoff in one room?
He's got a huge hair. He goes, I go, yo, Bailoff, what's up? He goes, hey, dude. I go, Paul, what's up? He goes, hey. I go, it's me. He goes, hey, how you doing? I walk up to him. I go, Paul, it's me. How you doing? He goes, oh, man, good to see you, Chris. And he gives me a hug. He didn't even know who I was. Respect for Paul Bailoff and his fans.
Man.
What a unique human being.
Wow.
But, yeah, man, the Milwaukee Metal Fest was great. I remember we sold like 20 T-shirts. And then I said, why the fuck aren't we selling T-shirts? And like, no one really buys them until the end of the show.
Right.
I go, well, I'm not waiting to the end of the show. And I sat down in the fucking merch booth. I go, Danny Looker, come with me. I go, Scott, you want to come? No. So none of those two guys showed up. Me and Looker sold $8,000 in T-shirts in fucking 40 minutes.
Wow.
We sold almost all the bulk of the T-shirts because they didn't want to. I was like, they never cared about anyone but themselves.
Sure.
But the Milwaukee Metal Fest was a unique experience. I knew Jack Koshik very well. He was a wrestler promoter as well.
However, I do also know that S.O.D. did a show in 1999 here in San Antonio at the November to Dismember.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had done... That was a Jack Koshik show again.
November to Dismember, Jack Koshik.
I remember going and playing that show, and I think Obituary played it, and a lot of bands played that show.
Danzig and
it was a fucking good show.
Crowbar.
And I remember
Morbid Angel.
I remember sitting talking to people, and they're like, "Dude, Billy, you're welcome back." And I'm like, I can't remember these. It's hard for me to. You know, it's 40 years ago we did that record. It's hard to believe that people still listen to it.
Yeah.
And now there's a generation of kids that are like wearing SOD shirts from fucking Hot Topic, you know, and all those metal. You can buy them online. And it's crazy. Yeah. And I'm like, I guess I'm not going to get paid for that t-shirt either.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, they don't pay anybody. They steal everything with their manager.
Yeah. I remember being at November to Dismember, and we were there all 3 days, I think, interviewing. We had our own little setup. We were interviewing everybody. And I remember you, along with some other bands there, did a press conference. You guys were seated at a table, and Steve from Skin Lab was sitting next to you. Yeah, exactly. Then next to you was Kirk from Crowbar. And then over was some guy from Riot, and then the singer from Moonspell was there. And I remember the guy from Riot was late, and the guy who was coordinating the press conference, of course, all the press people were out there, and you said something like, "Fuck the dude from Riot, let's get started," or something like that. You were ball busting everybody.
Oh, that's definitely me.
Yeah. It was great though, and I remember. And I'm going to release this on video. I announced it out there. So all you people out there are going to get to see it. But I got the first question in at the press conference.
There you go.
Yeah, I said, "This is Rob from Metalworks." And I remember my first question was something about like, you know, this is the first time Kaushik's ever done a big fest like this down here, and something about how do you feel about, you know, what he's doing across the country. But stuff like that. It was great. I'm going to release it. And I remember that day, that show. It was a pretty significant event for San Antonio, and it's never happened like that again here in San Antonio.
Yeah, listen, Jack Kaushik knew his shit. I mean, he did a lot of wrestling promotion in the Midwest. He did all the Ohio promotion for up in that area, and he worked for WWE. He did all their feeder shows.
I never even knew he was involved in all that.
Oh, yeah, dude. He brought me... I went to WWE with him in New Jersey, which was amazing. But I also went to a Star Trek convention with him, and William Shatner was sitting there yelling at George Takei, who played Sulu.
Why was he yelling at him?
He's going, "George, why do you have to be this way?" He goes, "William Shatner, you are an asshole." "George, it was a TV show. You denied me the right to be a captain." "George, there's nothing a captain of anything. It's a TV show." And I watched him argue. I was like, this is really fucking happening.
I love William Shatner.
Dude, one of the greatest actors that ever lived.
He's still alive, that motherfucker. He's like 90-something years old.
Listen, he's actually one of the greatest actors that ever lived.
And he's still working at 90-something.
You cannot deny his talent.
You ever seen The Unexplained? He hosts the show called The Unexplained.
He does.
I love it.
He was great. And T.J. Hooker, you know, that hairpiece was legend.
Yeah.
He was legend.
Yeah.
He was a legend. By the way, we also did a show at S.O.D. in 1997 in Germany. So if you look at S.O.D. Germany, 1997, that's the only S.O.D. show we did.
Wow.
In Europe, the first one. And we opened for Rammstein, and they were total douchebags.
I bet.
Yeah.
A thrash hardcore band with Rammstein.
It was festivals in Germany.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a big fest.
It was called With Full Force.
1999 saw the release of Bigger Than the Devil, and I guess you could call it a reunion of sort, because it had already kind of been some time that you guys had kind of written a record together and put a record out. What were your feelings going into that cycle, and what was there any, you know, how were the relationships at the band, within the band at that time?
I mean, if you're going to listen, it started like this. They wanted to do the S.O.D. Bigger Than a Devil record, and I didn't. They wanted to have a reunion, and I didn't. But Murray Richmond, one of the guys that helped them rob all the money, Murray Richmond from Richmond Business Management, convinced me to do it. After signing the contracts and realized that they stole quite a bit of money, which included the whole Japanese deal. They changed contracts after we signed them. There's a whole bunch of schism we could talk about later. But the relationships were weird. I walked into a rehearsal studio in Anthrax's rehearsal studio with Yonkers. And John Bush is sitting there reading a newspaper. He goes, so you're going to do this whole SOD thing again, are you? And I looked at him. I go, no, I'm hanging out and selling fucking ice cream with him. You know, he was just not very bright, that guy. And we started to rehearse, and I was working on the record deal with Mike Monterulo, and we was talking to Nuclear Blast, and we were talking to Roadrunner. And like the third rehearsal, I come in, and everyone's standing around, and Mike Monterulo says, Billy, we're going to have a band meeting. I go, here we go. Something stupid's going to happen. It's going to piss me off. Because I didn't even want to do it. Even though when I did it, I gave it 100%, which is why my vocals were way better than their sounds. But I walked in that room, and Charlie Benante holds a meeting. And he goes, I want everyone to know something. I know we're working on the S.O.D. record right now, but I got a phone call from Dave Grohl. And Scotty and went like this, here we go. And Dave Grohl asked me to play on their new record. And he said, if I play on the record, would I tour with the band? And I just want you guys to know, if I do it, I'm not going to be able to do SOD. And he looked at Scotty, goes, I want to know what you think. And Scotty and said, we had plans to do this SOD stuff. Everyone's relying on you to do this SOD stuff. And here you go again. So obviously he had a history of having sand in the pussy. See, I call Charlie Benante Charlene Bichante. But he's so evil now, I call him Cersei Bichante. And Danny Loker, who has literally never had a job in his life, goes, we were going to do this and I was planning on doing this and now it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to go back to brutal truth. I'm not going to deal with this bullshit. And Charlie looked at me, he goes, what do you have to say? Because I always know Charlie was a little femmy and very emotionally.
Right.
He was emotionally volatile like a woman on her period. He goes, what do you think? I go, you want the truth? If Dave Grohl called me up, I'd leave SOD in 2 seconds because we're going to go nowhere, number one. Number two is, if you have the opportunity to do that and you don't do it, you're crazy. Besides, SOD is only going to have fun for a little bit. And we could always get Dave Lombardo to play drums on it. So good luck, dude, because I do it in 2 seconds. And Charlie Benante, and everyone's pissed at me, looking at me. And Charlie Benante looked at me. And I swear on my mother, which I would never lie about. I don't ever have to fucking lie. Charlie Benante says to me, you really don't care about me, do you? And I'm like, said to myself, this guy's obviously gay. There's something wrong with this person emotionally, that he's so volatile like a woman, that he has to take everything as a slight. I just wished him well to go into the biggest band in the world.
Right.
And the biggest band in the world, the Foo Fighters. And he puts it in my face like I should beg him to stay. Just get the fuck out. You don't think Dave Lombardo could have ripped up SOD? Of course he could have. So the relationship with me and Charlie have always been brutal because he's always been very femmy and very soft. And he always complains. I'm like, I don't want to fucking have it.
Right.
Not at all. And, I wished him well because I didn't even want to do SOD's reunion. And I was already managing bands, working with bands. I was working with now Madball started working with me. US Bombs were working with me. I had a Gnostic Front. I had a Gnostic Front. I had Maximum Penalty started to work with me. And I had fucking Step Kings working with me. And I just started helping the band Il Nino get their shit together. So Fat Dave was an old MOD alumni and the drummer. And we call him Fucka Fucka. And I had more than enough work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even after my fire, I was thriving. And I did it because Murray begged me to do it. And I realized something. Anthrax was already done at that point. No one gave a fuck about them. And they used SOD's money and all the money they stole to keep them in the red or in the black.
Right.
And they were basically funding themselves with my money.
Yep.
And I was just sick of it. Murray lied to me. Mike Monterulo from TKO Booking stole all the money with them. Missy Colazzo was well aware of it because she managed the Anthrax career and managed SOD's money to promote Anthrax. So I was like, fuck you, man.
And
at that point, when Charlie said that to me, I was like, you know what? Why am I even bothering with these guys? They're obviously evil.
Yeah.
Charlie's a very selfish girl.
at that point, I mean, at that time, 1999, all of this unruly cheating financially,
Thank you.
you weren't aware of it at that time, though, or were you?
As
kind
we
of,
started to sign contracts, the first thing we signed was this. We signed our contract with. No, first I went to go talk to Roadrunner to see if they would what kind of commitment they had for marketing, and they said go ahead and go see. So I went to meet Cess Wessels and Monty Connor,
right?
and I walked fucking 25 blocks in the city to find that fucking office.
Wow!
And I'm sweating my balls off, and I'm talking to them. I go, hey, thanks for having me, Mr. Wessel. Of course, Monty, good to see you. And they said, yeah, we're really excited about this, man. I'm like, cool. And they go, so Monty, I'll be honest with you. You know, I trust you. I hope to be able to work and to have a solid...
Monty Connor.
Yeah, to have a solid relationship with you because I do the business for SOD. Those guys are idiots. And he says, well, I'm not going to be your point man here. I goes, who's going to be my point man? And they looked at me and they said, Mike Gitter. So Mike Gitter was the point man. And I go, really? I go, I really want to work with Monty. He goes, well, Mike brought you to the label. I go, how did he bring us to the label? That's like saying I discovered Aerosmith. They have to walk this way. You know what I'm saying? We're already established. So they said, just go sit down with Mike and talk to him for a minute. I walked in his office and he's leaning back on his chair on the phone. Yeah, sure. And he's got his feet up and he's sitting there talking to me. And talking to the phone. He goes, I have someone here. I have to go. All right, thanks. He hangs up and he turns around and he looks at me and he does this in his chair. I want you to know something. I'm really excited about this, and I've been giving this a lot of thought. I'm like, okay, what do you got? He goes, I really think we should open this record with an instrumental, an intro. And I looked at him, I said, can I go to the bathroom? He goes, sure, it's down the hall. I walked out of the hall, out of his office, down the hall. I walked back into Cess Wessel's office with Monty Connor. I said, listen, Monty, you sure you're not going to be the point man on this? They're like, no. Mike is your guy. I said, okay. I walked out of the office, I got in the elevator and left. And I walked away from it because that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. More importantly, when we were doing the nuclear blast deal and we signed the deal for the whole...
So that killed the Roadrunner.
Totally.
Killed the Roadrunner deal.
Listen, I had zero confidence in it.
So you went with nuclear blast.
So we went with nuclear blast. I go, Mike Monterulo, let's look at this nuclear blast deal. And we went over it. I said, do me a favor, ask for something else for this and that. And we're talking to Holger Koch. So Koch, Holger Koch. Yeah. And he was the A&R person for nuclear blast. And the whole deal wound up with the publishing, and the record deal was $400,000 for America and the European territories. We still had Asia and Japan solo. And Mike Monterulo handed Scott Ian a contract for him for his commission, which was $40,000. Now Scott Ian comes up to me and goes, hey, did you see this? I go, what's this? He goes, it's Mike's commission. And I look at it and it said it's $40,000. Now I did half the negotiating for it. And I'm the fucking big dog in the band. And I go, what the fuck is this $40,000? He says, tell him he's getting $5,000. Like $5,000. And I said, no, you fucking tell him he's getting $5,000. And he wouldn't do it. So I walked up to Mike. I go, Mike, $40,000, huh? I didn't do half the work. And he just didn't know what to say. I go, I'll tell you what. You did half the work. I'll give you your commission, which is industry standard commission of 10% on the workload you did, which is 50% of it. He said, fine. And I paid him $20,000 when Scotty and told me to beat him up and pay him $5,000. So I'm ethical. The other $20,000 that I earned, I didn't take because my business partners never authorized me to take a commission. I represented us because Mike didn't know what we wanted. And I'm telling you right now, I swear on my fucking mother, I didn't take that money. And I said, I wasn't authorized to take it. It's a $20,000 commission and that's it. And that's all he took. But then they stole the Japanese record deal from JVC Victor. They never gave us the money. They changed the publishing deal after we signed it. I think there's So they paid us 50, and I think it was 125,000. So they stole another $75,000 allegedly. They took all the Japanese show money. We did shows in Japan.
Yeah.
And everyone plays over there. They get 30 and 40,000 a show. We did Club Cheetah. They paid us 65,000 for 5 shows. No, that's not how it works. But they stole all the merch money, all the Japanese publishing, all of the Japanese record deal money, and they changed the contract on the shows in Japan, and they refused to show me the contracts. So they were really sneaky. And the worst part about that is this. Murray Richmond from Richmond Business Management, who was not only my friend, it was someone I respected immensely. When his wife passed, I became very dear friends with him. I brought him to dinner up in Hoboken because he was alone, you know what I'm saying? And he was always very fair to me when he worked at Megaforce. He worked for his own company, which had the S.O.D. catalog and all the books. And I said to him, Murray, I want you to know I respect and I love you very much. I'm going to bring you to Japan on tour with us. He goes, really? And I brought him to Japan and paid for it out of my money. You understand me? To show him respect for the loss of his wife. Yeah. And he knew that they stole the Japanese record deal. They stole all of the T-shirt money. They stole fucking everything. And they did it with Mike Monterulo at TKO Booking. Just like that NECA doll. We never got paid. Me and Danny Loker never got paid for the NECA doll. For the S.O.D. Sergeant D figure. And Mike Monterulo said this. We got the same amount of money as Megadeth, which was nothing. Well, maybe they got nothing, but maybe they got, you ready, $200 or $300 for free each. And it took me 3 months to get one free one. You understand me? Those guys stole all the money, and that's why strained relationships exist, because they're unethical and they have no soul.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not doing S.O.D. 40 years later. They called me up several times during my career after this time frame. Like in 2006, I got a phone call from Danny Loker to do the Maryland Death Fest.
Of course.
Bill, do you want to do the Maryland Death Fest? It's going to be really cool. They're going to give us $25,000, and we're going to get to keep all the merch, and they're going to pay for everything. I go, Danny, let me think about it. I'll call you back. I hung up with it, and I said to myself, I don't have a problem doing the show. I don't have a problem making that money. But I got a problem making Scott and Charlie money.
Yeah.
So I called up Danny Looker. I go, Danny. He goes, what's up? I go, we're not doing it. I refuse to work with Scott and Charlie. And I hung up. Scotty Ian calls me out of nowhere. Bring, bring. I see 323. It's L.A. I'm like, hello? He goes, hey, it's me. You don't want to do that show? I go, hey, who's this? He goes, it's Scott. You don't want to do that show? I go, Scott Ian? He goes, yeah. What's the matter? You don't want to do that show? I go, hey, Scott, how you doing? It's Billy. Good to hear from you. What's the matter? You don't want to do that show? You don't want to make that money? I said, no, I don't want to make you that money. And I hung up the phone. And that's why people like and respect me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a real motherfucker.
Yeah. Wow. So, I've had an opportunity to meet these guys. I interviewed.
I'm sorry.
I've interviewed Danny Loekler when he was on tour with Nuclear Assault. Where he smoked a bowl during our interview, on camera. He was smoking a bowl of pot. Yeah.
Look, Danny, for all his faults, is a very simple man. He just wants to play and have a good time, and then one day he'll be dead.
Yeah.
So that means all the shirts that he has with no sleeves on them, they're going to be in a museum somewhere.
And I've had my experiences with Charlie and Scott behind the scenes more than once. And I'll just say this. It was never something positive. It was always something negative. Now, let me tell you that. I'll tell you the story really quick. And this was a true story. This happened in 2000. And Anthrax was on tour with Megadeth and Motley Crue. I forgot the name of that tour.
Motley Crue?
Motley Crue and Megadeth. And they were opening up the tour. And we had confirmed, Robbs MetalWorks had confirmed an interview with Anthrax at this scheduled time. It was in the afternoon. I remember the sun was fucking out. It was hot as shit. and they had the buses in this huge parking lot. It was like a huge stadium show, amphitheater show. And so we get there. I contact my contact in their camp. He comes out. He gets me and my camera guy, and we go into the bus. And then the guy says, all right, we have a interview scheduled right now. Who's going to do this interview? And like that, fucking Scotty runs out of the bus. Charlie Benante runs out of the bus. Frank Bayo runs out of the bus, like right past me, dude. They didn't even say hi or nothing.
Yeah, they're scumbags.
They're scumbags. And then the only guy that said, I'll do it, was John Bush.
Yeah.
And so I sat down with John Bush and we did it.
It's like talking to a shoe.
I don't even recall it, but I do recall that he was like the only gracious one enough to, if he would have walked out, the guy would have said, Rob, we're not doing an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's typical.
Yeah, I remember it left a very bad taste in my mouth with regards to a band that, I had been listening to, for a long, long time and that I grew up listening to, but, I didn't think that was cool. That's just not cool. We're there to help promote you, to help you. And to be treated like that, I thought was really bad.
Yeah,
really
it's
bad.
fucking disrespectful.
It's disrespectful.
That's why you see pictures of people with Scotty Ian's face on a shirt that say, I hate the fans. And
Exactly.
I could tell you, I could one better that. I played in Clinton, Iowa with S.O.D. on tour during Bigger Than a Devil, which was sold out. The thing was, the kids were standing outside in a sleet storm. And I was like to the promoter, dude, why don't you let these kids inside? Get them out of the fucking snow. This is bullshit. It was called the Pig Pen, I think it was called. And Scott and Charlie were doing sound check. Like, we got to do a sound check for fucking hardcore all day long. Dude, you don't know your snare sound by now, and half of it's triggered, you're a fucking idiot. So we get it all figured out, and I tell them, look, open that fucking door right now and get these kids in the room. So I brought in 200 kids standing in the snow inside, and Scott and Charlie left the room, left sound check, and went to the hotel room. We played the show, and the show was fucking insane. I remember Scotty and saying, I want everyone to know, if someone would have told me that Clinton, Iowa would have been one of the best shows of the tour, I would have said, you're full of shit, but you guys ruled. And the place like fucking erupted. Now this is Slipknot's fucking home base. And everyone was going crazy. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm fucking proud of Scott for saying that, even though he was being a dick to me. We're on, now me and Loker are outside. Of course, just me and Loker, because we were the only ones ever to stand with the crowd, ever to stand with the fans and sign everything, which I've always done, because without the fans, we're nothing. To quote Gene Simmons, without the fans, we're nothing. But to tell you the truth, it was what the right thing to do. They waited for us. They were in the snow, and I got them in. They stayed and rocked. And after the show, we had over fucking 80 kids outside waiting to sign shit.
Wow.
And we're signing shit, And Scott Ian is sitting on the couch like this, eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And they go, could you get Scott to sign this, please? I go, sure. And I go in with a piece of paper. I go, Scott, you mind signing this? And he looked at me and goes, I'm busy. Eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I said, you don't want to sign that stuff? He goes, I'm busy. Sitting there. I said, yeah, you're busy, huh? Watch this, motherfucker. I opened up the curtain in the bus. I go, hey, 5 of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on the bus. I brought him on the bus, and they're standing around him. He's doing this. I go, hey, sign this stuff, Scott. He looks at them. He goes, I'm busy. I go, remember this. They get off. I go, give me 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They get on. And he goes like this. I'm busy. And then he gets up and runs into the back of the bus. I go outside with those kids. I go, and I want everyone to remember who showed you respect and who fucking disrespected you. And everyone in Clinton, Iowa fucking hated Scotty Ian for doing that. Because he's a selfish cunt.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
Yeah. That's
Fuck
horrible.
him. He looks like a fucking Muppet.
That's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when I was sitting down with Daryl from Pantera. Daryl from Pantera says to me, Billy, can I talk to you, man? I go, sure. So he goes, why is Scott biting my stuff? So he came to my house in Irving, Texas for my Moving to Texas show. And he came. They gave me my platinum records, and I threw a barbecue for all the people that came to the show in my backyard. And I had 80 people back there with Kevin Talley and all these people, and Debbie Obono came to it. Mm-hmm. And he sat down with me inside my house, and he goes, why is Scott taking my beard and taking my sound to do? Yeah, I go, listen to me. Scott doesn't have anything original about him. Mm-hmm. End of story. He copies everybody. But that was one of the egregiances we had when we did Bigger Than the Devil. Like, I got better as a vocalist. And Charlie Benante complained about Scott Ian. Every time he goes, this is not the SOD guitar sound. I go, I know. I don't like it. It doesn't fit what we're doing. Danny Loker's bass sounded like he was playing bass to a mud pie. And Charlie's drums had become thuddy, not tacky. And so without the real original guitar sound, it was going to be different. Which is why that record sounds like that. And I walked up to Scott. I'm like, Scott, man, why don't you want to play Marshall cabinets and make it sound like SOD sound? It's way better. He goes, this is Dimebag sound. So he blew his so much smoke up Dimebag's ass. And when he died, this is one of the things that made me realize what low-life scumbags they are. Now, this is in 2004. When Darryl was murdered, Anthrax came out and said, we're going to have a reunion with the original Anthrax with Danny Spitz, the classic lineup with Joey Belladonna, to celebrate Darryl's life, Dimebag. Remember when he said that? Mm-hmm. In August, that was in December or January. In August, I was on the phone with my webmaster, James Hijakowski from the Politically Incorrect World of Billy Milano. Mm-hmm. And I told him that Anthrax was getting back together 6 months earlier with Joey Belladonna and Danny Spitz. And we did an interview a review saying, yes, the classic lineup's getting back, because they were already planning it. And even Rob Caggiano said to me, yeah, that's pretty low that they said they did it for Dimebag. I mean, they literally don't leave Darryl alone. We have a new whiskey for Anthrax. It's called Dimebag. You know, they just totally steal him. Let's put Dimebag on our stage again. Of course, yeah. Yeah, it's fucking horrible. Listen, here's the truth. I'm waiting for them to put musicians up there till it looks like the fucking AIDS quilt up on the stage. There'll be so many people up there. It'll be like the Hollywood squares of dead musicians. You know what I'm saying? That's horrible. Listen, they're literally soulless. Scott Ian is a soulless piece of shit. And Charlie Benante is an evil fucking woman. Wow. My friends, listen, you know I'm down in the hood with the Vatos. Right. And my friends have said to me, Billy, what would you do if he put you up there? I said, when you die. I said, what are you going to do? Or they go, we're not going to let that happen. It's like the dudes that I know down in Laredo and Harlingen, all those guys down there, they're like, dude, we'll never let that happen to you. So if you ever see me on their stage and I'm dead, throw rocks at their heads.
You've shared a lot about how you feel about these guys individually.
And they've done so many things that are just childish and selfish.
Yeah, horrible things. Let's talk about now. Let's get a little gritty now. And you've stated at the beginning of this interview that you were like, Rob, it's been 40 years. It's time to kind of set the record straight and attempt to make things right. For just the sake of being ethical and living right, and having good integrity. Let's talk about the other great rock and roll swindle.
Right.
And I know that there is some litigation now in the works.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate that it has to become legal, because when bands get so big and when they're creating secret LLCs or fucking
stealing all your intellectual property rights,
stealing everything,
stealing the royalties, denying me access to my contracts. I mean, I'm 1/4 owner of that business,
right?
And Missy Colazzo and Mike Monterulo from TKO Booking and Murray Richmond, they always hide the contracts, hide the bank account. Like we never got paid for festivals. Remember something? I'm not,
which is a fucking lie.
Listen,
they did
I'm
get paid.
fighting. Yeah, they got paid.
They
and
got
stole
paid.
the money.
Yeah,
I'm fighting for Danny Looker here. For 10 years, I yelled at Megaforce Records, you owe us for 2 songs that you did as covers with Anthrax, the Attack of Killer Bees, the 2 SOD songs. And they refused to pay us, the publishing. So even though it was on Island Records, they managed the band. They managed their band account. They are the management team and the booking agent, TKO Booking and Mike Monterulo, Murray Richmond and Richmond Business Management, and Missy Colazzo at Megaforce Records. And they hide all the books, all the contracts, and keep all the money for Scott and Charlie, because that's who their balls are stuck on their face.
And I'm sure those people,
they know everything.
They get a little cut too.
Yeah, they steal everything.
That's why they're getting
and they know
cut.
that if they listen to me, which is mutually agreed upon, I shut it down. You saw the contract for the advance on the merchandise,
right?
Whereas I got the most. I got the second most, and I gave Danny Looker more than both Danny,
right.
more than
Scott
Charlie and Scott. They got the 2 least amounts. And the bottom line is, I protected Danny Looker, and now he's going to do this SOD tribute band with the guy that stole all the money for him,
right.
With Scotty and Son playing drums, which is another child on drums playing for SOD. Yeah, because we started with one, Cersei Pachante. Yeah, and he's going to play with Jamie Josta, who has 0 personality. It's like talking to a meat sock. I remember meeting Jamie Josta. Listen, I remember, here's a great story. Jamie Josta was doing promotion as a booking agent, as a promoter. And we played Scott Magruder's club in New London, Connecticut. And there was literally nobody there because he never promoted it. He forgot to. And we're playing that show. And I'm saying, I'm doing my act. And Scott Ian's like this, crank, 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 crank. I'm like, hey, shut the fuck up. I'm talking. He goes, what's this, the Billy Milano show? I go, you're goddamn right it is, because I'm the only guy on stage with a personality. So I'm on stage ripping Scott a new asshole. We do that show, and then we get told that night that the bus is going to be going into repairs the next day in New London, Connecticut, and we're staying in the hotels. And Scott and Charlie have interviews. What happens is Scott and Charlie take my bus, our gear, our road crew, and go to Boston and open for Slipknot without a lead guitarist. Remember when he opened for Slipknot without a lead guitarist? So they went up to Boston to play with Slipknot, denied us even attending the show, me and Loker. They made us stay in the hotel room. They didn't even tell us they were playing. Scotty and played up there with no lead player, with the John Bush who sucked balls as a singer. And they didn't even invite us to the show. So they fucking lied. Mike Monterulo lied again. Scotty and Charlie lied again. But the best part is I found out because when they opened up the guitar cabinets on stage, they still had the S.O.D. bigger than the devil's scrims on them. And everyone started to chant S.O.D. and they had to take them off. So my friend from Boston called me up and they said, Billy, you're not playing tonight? I'm like, I'm stuck in a hotel in Connecticut. They're like, Anthrax is playing with Slipknot tonight, and they didn't even invite us to the show. And I remember when Scott Ian said, when we were listening to the first Slipknot record, he's like, listen to this. This is garbage. What a pile of piece of shit record. And now he's running up and fucking his bandmates again. Like, Scott Ian is a low-life cocksucker, period. And I'll tell you even a better story. I get on the phone with Paul Crook, who's the guitarist who was in Anthrax and played for Meatloaf, and he got fired by Anthrax for being too tall and too blonde to be in Anthrax. And I did the 20 questions in Metal Sludge to defend Paul, which I ripped Scotty in a new asshole. He says, Billy, I go, what's up, Paul? He goes, listen, I'm in the studio with Meatloaf. I'm like, oh, good for you. He goes, listen, Meatloaf wants to talk to you. I'm like, the singer? And he goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, hold on. I go, what do I call him? He goes, call him Meat. I go, call him Meat. He goes, Billy, he wants to talk to you. Here he is. And I hear, Billy Milano. I go, yeah, what's up? Is this Meat? He goes, yeah, it's Meat. He goes, how you doing? I go, good. I go, what's up? He says, I hear you hate Scott Ian too.
Oh, wow.
And
Isn't that his father-in-law?
Yep. Now he likes him. He liked him, but he hated him in the beginning because he's a selfish scrub.
Yeah. Yeah. How ironic, huh?
Yeah, that was a great conversation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like all the shit they stole from me, like taking credit for the name of S.O.D., the naming of the record. Bottom line, they're full of shit. It's like, we were talking about Gary Mescal earlier from the Crumbsuckers, where I got Kurt Hammett to play with the Crumbsuckers on the stage. I remember I was doing the S.O.D. release party in my backyard at my house. And I had a pool. I'm number 10 of 11 kids. And we're all out there partying and swimming, all their friends or my friends. The Crumbsuckers, New York Hardcore is in the house, and Agnostic Front's hanging out. And we're having a huge barbecue. Mm-hmm. And of all things, my dad is out there helping cook for everybody. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it was awesome. And I'm talking to Gary Mescal, Dan Richardson, Slate, the drummer for the Crumbsuckers, and Chuck Lenahan, who was the guitarist. And standing next to him was Howie Abrams and Scott Ian. And they're sitting there wearing their flare shorts, those stupid shorts the Crumbsuckers used to wear, the beach shorts. Mm-hmm. I said, you know what? You guys need to do something before anyone else do it. Does it? And he goes, what's that? Gary Mescal goes, what's that, man? I go, you know those shorts you wear? When I see those shorts, I think of fun. And if you're on stage playing that, no matter how heavy you are, everyone's going to say that was a fun show. And Scott Ian went like this. And the next thing I know, Scott Ian's wearing those jam shorts on stage. Another thing he stole from me, because he has no brain other than what to steal. He's a fucking liar.
That was total Among the Living era.
Yeah, of course. And when it was that was right after the Crumbsuckers. Yeah. Yep. Dude, they're so full of shit. Wow. Pathetic. And it's like this. I was playing, remember that TV show F Troop? It was an old Indian show. Mm-hmm. It was Native Americans and American Fort. They worked together. And their song was boo doo 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 doo. Dun 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 no 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 dun no 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 dun dun. And it was F Troop. It was one of my favorite shows. And I'm playing it on bass. And I go to the rehearsal. I go into the mix room. I go, what's going on? They said, oh, we're working on the mix now. I go, okay. I go into the area where it's the lounge, and Charlie Benante's in there going, I go, dude, that's my riff. He goes, no, it's a riff I've been working on for the next Anthrax record. And they just finished recording Spreading the Disease. So Charlie Benante absolutely stole the Hakawi riff from F Troop. Go watch F Troop, everybody. For Indians, which was their biggest song. Yeah. Because Charlie is an evil woman. Wow. And like all evil women do, they steal. They use their pussy to steal.
Yeah. So
I'm mad now. Yeah. I'm gonna drink some water. Thank God I'm not drinking beer.
The lawsuit.
The other great rock and roll swindle.
The other great rock and roll swindle. What can you share anything about what's happening with that at the moment?
Well, I'll tell you what it was.
What do you hope the resolution to be?
Okay, well, here's what it was. It was a copyright lawsuit, intellectual property rights, copyright, and trademark, where Timmy McMurtry, the old MOD guitarist, who I didn't work with anymore, wanted to do an MOD reunion, and I said, okay, I'll give you 4 shows for right now. And he says, I'm not doing all that work for 4 shows. We're going to do 60. I go, no, the fuck we're not. I got contracts with booking agents. I got contracts with band members that are in MOD. I can't just do that. And so him and his lawyer, Randall M. Cutler, who was his lawyer and his business manager, they trademarked MOD and then wrote Megaforce Records to stop working with MOD, that they owned it. Missy Colazzo and I got a lawyer named Peter Nussbaum, who was our federal attorney. So you have to be a federal attorney to work at the federal level, which is copyright, intellectual property rights, and trademark. The next thing we know, we're in a lawsuit with Timmy McMurtry. We're suing him to get back our lawsuit. And it's a guy named Randall M. Cutler as the attorney, acting in federal court. The problem was he wasn't really a lawyer. he was already disbarred for drugs and for some guns, I believe. You can look him up online. Randall M. Cutler, attorney disbarred. And Timmy used him for 4 months as an attorney. And he even threatened me on the phone. I made my lawyer write it down. I can show it to you. Where he said, we'd rather chase them down the street with baseball bats than negotiate with them. It was Ken Ballone and Timmy McMurtry.
Wow.
By the way, Ken Ballone had some kind of interaction with a child in a sealed court case in Arizona and had to move out of state as part of his plea deal. He went to Nevada where he recently passed away. And you know what I say? Good.
Yeah.
Die. Number one. Number two is Timmy's lawyer was disbarred as a felon in federal court and acted as an attorney. And my lawyer found out and told me and showed me articles about him being a disbarred felon, Peter Nussbaum. I said, Pete, no matter what, immediately report him to the bar. And he said, well, what can the bar do? He's not even a lawyer, which is a lie. The bar would have reported to his prosecutor, Janet DiFiorio, the fact that he violated his plea deal and would have went right to fucking prison. But I had asked when he threatened me on the phone with Missy Collazo, so he threatened Peter on the phone. The first treat he gets on the phone with him and says, we'd rather beat him up with baseball bats. This is the lawyer. And Timmy McMurtry's retarded lawyer. Now, Missy Collazo and I are on the phone with Pete, and Pete says, I have an obligation to tell you this, Peter Nussbaum. You got threatened. They threatened Billy on the phone. And Missy said, well, what are we going to do about it? And he goes, well, I could just say, maybe we should continue with this lawsuit as is and let it go by. I said, Pete, you listening? Report him to the bar. Now, he threatened me as an attorney. He says, well, I don't know if I really want to do that. Missy's like, maybe we shouldn't do that. But like, oh, no, you don't understand. Report him to the bar. Now, the second time I say it, he has to do it by law. And he didn't do it. And the court case went on for 15 months where he robbed and stole everything, including Missy Collazo making me sign paperwork to protect MOD where she stole everything. She violated due process in federal court by not reporting Randy Cutler to the bar. The other thing is this. Timmy had a boss who was prosecuted by Christopher Perino. He was a felon as well. And he was laying pressure on people to drop the lawsuit. So we're going to find out what it is. I got a lawyer that works for the New York Justice Department who's going to go after Missy Collazo for me for violating my legal and lawful right to due process and fair and reasonable representation in federal court. I'm going after Timmy and Randy Cutler and Timmy's boss, Tony, including show that she did this intentionally with Peter Nussbaum.
And she's running Megaforce Records.
Yeah, she's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And she steals all the SOD money. And that's the whole thing. Once I get her on the stand or I get her in, this is like a real deposition in federal court now in New York City. Once they're in there and they perjure themselves, they have to bring, like Murray Richmond, he hides all my books. Murray's getting called into court. Mike Monterulo's going to get called into court. Missy Collazo's getting called into court. Timmy McMurtry's getting called into court. Peter Nussbaum's getting called into court. We're trying to ascertain whether or not Randy Cutler is truly dead, and his boss Tony's getting called into court. And so we're going to have us a field day with these motherfuckers.
Wow.
And I have a very dear friend that works for Mr. Giuliani, and the New York Justice Department has given me a prosecutor for the case.
Nice.
And I'm going to fuck them so bad.
Well,
and then you can write my book.
I hope you have your day in court, man.
This is it, man. This is, you know, Missy Collazo had that case done in 4 months and she refused to do it. So I don't know why. And I think it was Tony and Randy threatening her. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be causing a fucking shitstorm of music in this. This is going to be the biggest record I ever had. And it's going to be a criminal record for them.
Wow. Wow. I can't wait to see what happens. I hope it all works out in your favor, bro, because sometimes I think when people find themselves in situations like yours, and you know who comes to mind? I always think about Dave Lombardo, how he got fucked over. And that's pretty well known too. But, sometimes people in those situations, they just kind of say, well, that's just the way it is. Like, it's part of life.
Yeah, no. Listen, I've been asking for years for them to pay. I asked for 10 years to pay Danny Loker and me, Megaforce, which she never did. I asked Murray Richmond for my books, and I brought him to Japan when his wife died, and he stole the books and hid the books. Michael Monterulo closed out the bank account and stole the bank account. Here, like this. I was on tour with S.O.D., and Scotty and pulled his bag off the back of the trailer at Maritime Hall and destroyed Frank Bellows' bass head, which was an SVT bass head. So, which was one of the bass heads we borrowed. Mm-hmm. And when it was shouted like shattered glass, I said, and I heard him say to the roadie, Chris Moorhead, just put it back in the truck. We'll put it in the warehouse later when we get back, and they could deal with it. Well, let me tell you something. Frank Bello, without his knowledge, lent us that bass head. Scotty and smashed it with the fucking drum tech, Chris Moore, or Chris Moorhead, whatever the fuck his name is. So when we got to Atlanta, Georgia, my friend Patrick Scooch, who played drums for Shank 456 and a few bands that I was working with. I was managing his band, Super Jack. Mm-hmm. I said to him about the bass head because he was getting me. He goes, "What's up with this bass head?" I go, listen to this. He goes, "Oh, dude, that thing's fucked up." Mm-hmm. I go, "Listen, do you know a guy that can fix this so I can bring it home and get it fixed?" So I gave it to my friend Scooch. They got it fixed in Atlanta through a friend, which cost me $900 fucking dollars. I come to New York with the bass head. He comes up to New York because I flew up from Texas to Atlanta, drove with them from Atlanta to New Jersey to record in Big Blue Meanie with Super Jack. And we had his bass head. And I called up Murray Richmond. I go, "Murray, listen, I repaired Frank Bellows' bass head. It was $982 to fix it. Can you give me the money out of the SOD account?" He said, "There is no SOD account. Mike Monterolo took it." So he took all the money, hid the bank account, hid the books, changed the contracts, took all the tour money from Europe, all the festival money, took all the Japanese show money, all the Japanese T-shirt money, all the Japanese record deal money, in full view of Murray Richmond and Missy Colazzo. Scotty and Charlie Benante embezzled everything. And at the end of the day, they stuck me with a $900 bill for the bass head. And I'm like, well, if I have to pay for it, I'm keeping it because those guys have the money.
Right.
Yeah, and I let Skin Lab use it. And they said, Frank Bello said to me, "Dude, you stole my bass head." I go, "No, I didn't. I fixed your bass head. Your guitarist and your gay Uncle Charlie," whatever the fuck he is, Charlene Pichante or Cersei, they stole the money to repay me for fixing it.
Right.
And even Pat Scooch will tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're full of shit. So everyone's going to court, and I'm going to have my day.
You're going to have your day, bro.
Yes, I am.
As we get near the end of this interview, we've been talking about Megaforce Records for a while, and undoubtedly, when we think about the 80s and thrash metal on the East Coast, part of that history includes Johnny Z and Marsha, his wife, who started Megaforce Records. I had a chance, believe it or not, to interview Johnny Z back in 2014. He was in Corpus with
Maria. He wearing his kimono?
Yeah, and he had his cane. He was already an old man at that time, 2014. And I remember he was in Corpus with Maria Ferraro. And back then, Maria was working with a band from Corpus called Shattered Sun, who was very hot at that time. And so I had a chance to we were outside the club and talking and, chatting about the good old days, blah, blah. And then, of course, when I heard he passed away in 22, I was like, oh, man, a part of kind of the East Coast history has kind of passed away. What are your feelings on Johnny Z and Marsha?
Well, it's jaded, but it's also, I've never denied anyone the credit they deserve.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Johnny was a visionary, and Marsha was his sidekick. Marsha, I used to call nausea because she was insulting and rude.
Yeah.
But Johnny was actually quite brilliant. And much to his credit, he had the wherewithal to figure out everything during the worst times and get it going. So he started with Venom and Metallica.
Right.
And he built all of everything from SOD after that. So SOD built Megaforce with his money. for the money for the label. And Metallica and Venom gave him his credibility to start with. So Metallica and Venom played like the roller rink in Freehold, New Jersey.
But he sold Metallica to Elektra, right?
He did. Michael Lago signed them to Elektra.
I'm sure they didn't give him what.
I mean, I can't speak on what he got or what he didn't get.
I don't think they
weren't. It wasn't an amicable. It wasn't amicable for reasons.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know. I won't go into that. It's not. I don't have the field of information to choose from. But from my personal experience, why Johnny and Marsha were quite offensive at times, even coming on to me. At one point, Marsha came on to me and said, "We can fix your career if you want." I was like, "No, thanks." And I was like, I couldn't give up. I never cared about my career. You understand me? I know who I am.
Yeah.
You know, I'm Billy fucking Milano. And I'm as approachable as the guy at the food store that you say, "Excuse me, do you know where the bananas are?" "Yeah, they're over there." Have at it, you fucking nut. But, you know, I consider myself a different level of dignity.
Yeah.
And they were quite rude and quite selfish. So they were Johnny was a thief, and so was Marsha. But they did things. They did come on to me often, and I was like, never. But, you know, I'll be honest. You can't deny the fact that Johnny Z was brilliant. And he was a visionary that changed music. But to his credit, two things I'll say for him to show you that he did have a good side of him. Number one, I was in L.A. playing the Pasadena. What was that big place? The place in Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And we were playing as a club, and we were headlining. And I saw a bouncer beating up a kid, and I said, "Hey, leave that fucking kid alone, you asshole." And I had them remove the bouncer from the main pit because he was smiling, hitting a little kid. And the guy came backstage with his crew of L.A. gangsters and white guy, probably white nationalists, like skinheads, right? White Aryan Brotherhood. And he pulled out a knife on me, and he said, "You're dead, fucker." And he was standing there like this, and Johnny Z walked in behind him, went like this, and ran down the hall. And down the hall was suicidal tendencies and about 50 Crips, including my friend Daryl Woolley Sr., who was the most gigantic black man you've ever seen in your life. And he came in the room with his two sons and saved my life because of Johnny Z, because they were definitely going to knife me. And without Johnny Z, I would be dead. So that was
wow.
So that's a huge props for him. The other thing is this. One day he called me up and he said, "Billy, I have an extra ticket to a concert. I'd like to surprise you with it." I'm like, "All right." He goes, "Come to my house. We're going in a limo." So I go to his house in a limo. We drive to New York City, and it's the 40th anniversary of Atlantic Records. And Johnny Z's got me backstage, and I'm standing there next to Robert Plant, whose head looks like the giant pumpkin on Peanuts. Jimmy Page looks like, you know, Amy Winehouse, all fucking skinny and scrawny. Phil Collins is talking to me. Peter Gabriel standing in front of me. Stacy Q is over there, and Jason Bonham's hanging out. So it was the Led Zeppelin reunion.
Sure.
It was the Led Zeppelin reunion. Foreigner played. Stacy Q played. What was Phil Collins' band with?
Genesis.
Genesis played with fucking Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with all of them. And,
Cool.
Ahmed Ertekin. And I'm talking to Mr. Ertekin because he remembered me. He goes, "I remember you. I remember the time when we had a conversation." And it was Megaforce's 5th anniversary. S.O.D. headlined.
Wow.
Anthrax just signed to Island. Charlie Benante went up to everyone in Anthrax and said, "I want to do S.O.D. I don't want to do Anthrax anymore." Because S.O.D. blew the fucking night out.
Yeah.
Ahmed Ertekin comes up to me, the owner of Atlantic Records with Johnny Z. And he goes, Billy, look, this is Mr. Ertekin from Atlantic Records. He says, "You are some entertainer, son." I said, "Thank you very much." He says, "Listen, Billy, Ahmed Ertekin, he wants to sign S.O.D. to Atlantic Records." And I looked at him and he's like this. And I said, "No." He looked at me, he goes, "No." I go, "Johnny, if we sign to Atlantic Records, we're going to get lost on that record label." And Johnny was like this. I go, "I want to stay with Megaforce." I'm loyal. And Johnny went like this. By the way, Ahmed, you heard him. He's loyal. And Ahmed Ertekin said this to him. Do you really think I'm going to let you make money with a band that I want? And he bought half of Megaforce Records.
Wow.
That's Megaforce Atlantic. How about that? That's
So
a hell of a story.
He still made a little bit of money off SOD.
Oh, yeah. He had the Megaforce catalog.
Yeah. Wow.
But I was the only band with MOD because I didn't sign contracts with the Ahmed.
Right.
I signed with Caroline, Keith Woods, who was a friend of mine.
Right.
So I was the only band on Megaforce that wasn't on Atlantic.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, it's been a weird road.
That must have been a pretty cool experience, though.
Dude, I've got so many of them.
Wow.
Like I played that place in California, that very famous theater called the what the fuck is it called? The Full Theater or Fulcrum Theater?
Mm-hmm.
MOD played there with Exodus on tour.
Uh-huh.
And Bill Graham presents.
Right.
And Tony Isabella were managing Exodus. Now, this is the Bill Graham presents in this San Francisco theater, which is a very, very famous theater. Maybe you could look it up and write it in. And MOD is playing, and now we're here that San Francisco's the craziest show ever. And we're sitting there, they're all standing in their chairs, sitting in their chairs, cheering. And we did like 5 songs, and we stopped. I go, stop. I said, I always heard San Francisco was insane. And they're all going, ah. I go, you fucking pussies, get off your seats and come on down to the stage. And they just went, ah. And they jumped off the balcony. Some kid broke his leg. They ran down to the stage. The bouncers went like this. Ah! They ran away. Fucking 2,000 people rushed the stage. They were stage diving, moshing in this fucking theater that was like the most prestigious theater in the city.
Wow.
You know? And fucking they ran, and underneath it was the party for Exodus. And so they thought they were having an earthquake, and it was going from everyone running down to the stage. I looked to the left, and the whole stage is filled with the bands, and everyone's watching us. And man, we had a great show. I said, thank you, good night. Everyone was going crazy.
Wow.
We were shaking hands, and everyone walks off stage, and everyone walks back down stage. And I'll never forget this. This is my favorite memory in my entire music career. Nothing beats this memory. And Debbie Obono, who I love and miss more than anything, was standing there with Bill Graham. And I remember going up to her to go to shake her hand. I go, Debbie, what did you think? And Bill Graham grabs my hand. He goes, that was entertainment. And Debbie Obono's like this. And Bill Graham walked away and went downstairs. She goes, Billy, did you see? He goes, do you know who that is? I go, no, who is that? She goes, Billy, that's Bill Graham. I go, that's Bill Graham? She goes, yes. I go, Debbie, who's Bill Graham? And she went like this to me. She put her hand on my face. She's like, you're so sweet sometimes. I didn't know who it was.
You just trashed this theater, bro.
Listen, she gave me the most loving look, like, boy, you're so innocent sometimes.
And just for all the young people out there, and
Bill
Debbie Obono was a band manager from the Bay who worked with so many musicians out there. She was a manager of Possessed,
Exodus. She worked with.
I know she did work with
she
Violence
worked with
too.
Violence Forbidden. She worked with. We used to call her West Coast Mom.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. Out of everyone that's died in music, if I could have someone back for a day, it would be Debbie. I miss Debbie Obono more than I could ever have hoped for a better career.
Yeah.
Debbie was my paisan.
Yeah.
And I can remember meeting her the first time at a show in Canada when we went to go see Voivod play.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called, I don't know, Canadian Metal Fest. And I met her in 1985. And we never stopped talking until she got sick and passed away. And when I heard Debbie was on her deathbed, I literally wept and wept and wept and wept for days. She was the most amazing friend anyone could ever hope for. And I'd like to dedicate this interview, if you don't mind, to my friend Debbie Obono. Please remember her and honor her. She was unique, and she was unique.
Wow. Wow. A couple of more, Billy. Did I hear rumblings about an SOD tribute band?
I do. I have an SOD tribute band called United Forces, and I have it with my drummer Mike Fury
Yeah.
from Will to Live, and
Is that fairly new?
we've been working on it for about a year. It's announced already on the website, and the bass player and the guitarist is Josh and Ryan from Malevolent Creation. So we got two
Wow.
guys from Malevolent Creation,
Wow.
me and Mike from MOD. And, Josh and Ryan are great players. They're adults. I know they're not going to steal.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing is, we had a good vibe together. They hung out with me.
Have you played any shows yet?
We have not. We're getting ready to boot it up.
I remember when I heard about it, I was like, I think it's long overdue.
Yeah. Well, I got the right name for it, United Forces. Because
Yeah.
it's two bands from two players of each band.
And that's an SOD song.
And that's an SOD song. So it should
Yeah.
be cool.
But if anybody could pull it off, you're the voice, bro.
I hear you. Well, Scott Ian's got a good voice. Jamie Joster, right? It's like talking to a sock. Listen, I'll tell you a great story about him. I was doing
About Jamie Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had done 2 interviews for MTV, and they were getting ready to pick me. And Jamie Joster was doing interviews for MTV, and he's upstairs with El Nino in the studio I was in, Water Music, and I lived underneath it. And I go upstairs, and he's saying to everyone, yeah, I got the MTV gig. I go, are you sure you got the MTV gig? Because I tried it out, too. I tried for it, too. And he goes, dude, you're a dinosaur. They don't want you. I go, dude, remember, dinosaurs eat thumbs because he has one thumb. He's a bitch. And the funny thing was, I went downstairs, and Metal Maria called me up. She goes, Billy, why aren't you at the MTV studio right now? I said, look, I'm not doing it. She goes, Billy, they're picking you. I said, no, I'm going to Texas. And I packed up my house, and I went to Texas. Because I'm sick of fucking people. I don't have to interview for anybody.
Right.
I'm Billy fucking Milano.
Right.
You're never going to find anyone like me ever again.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I crushed him I watched his interviews. He was like this.
Wow.
Tell us about your drums.
Yeah.
It was like talking to a lamb chop on your hand.
Well,
he's doing their SOD reunion
yeah.
with Scott Ian, his tribute band. But Scott Ian's not going to be able to go anywhere without a passport because I'm coming hardcore for that motherfucker.
Yeah. We definitely covered a lot of ground today. As we end out, any final thoughts, any last words you want to share?
Interesting. First of all, I want to thank you, Rob, because you've always been honest.
You're welcome, my friend.
I've known you for a long time. I recently did some shows with MOD, and we have this EP we're working on right now.
My God. I'm going to say a final comments about that.
And things are focused now. I've been in Texas for 20 years. It's been up and down, and I really love it. But I don't love the liberals in the city who think little boys are little girls.
Yeah.
And men can have babies.
Right.
I don't think that. And Antifa is kind of retarded to begin with. But, I'm going to be taking a little break from Austin for a little bit while I finish my recording for MOD. And I go up to this court case in June in New York City. And, I'm really looking forward to going to my mother and father's grave and getting back to family and taking a little sabbatical and taking a road trip before I get into United Forces and MOD again. Because MOD is getting back together with Louis Vitek with this EP, and we're already getting offers for festivals and for next winter in Holland, Eindhoven Metal Festival, because we did a fucking 2 small shows in Austin. But I had mixed live music for a long time, from Headhunters to Bull McCabe's to Key Bar, and most recently at the RIP Coffee. And I'm not working at RIP. I'm not working in any other clubs ever again. I'm just pretty much burnt out on it. But I'm going to celebrate my 61st. I'm 61.
When's that?
June 5th. I'm going to celebrate my 61st birthday in New Jersey at my mom's grave to say I love you. I think it's very important that we get back to this country. We get back to the thought of the family dinner table, honoring our mother and father, and being truthful with ourselves. And so I want to go on to my mother and father and say, I'm still here and thank you for my life.
Yeah.
Remember something about our parents. They're our creators, and our mothers are our gods because they made us with their bodies. And I want to say I love you. And I think it's time to go home and say I love you.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're going to come back.
I'm considering coming back to a different aspect of Texas.
Different aspect of
Yeah. Like I thought about going to Lockhart. I thought about going to New Braunfels.
Bro, you belong in San Antonio.
Yo, dude,
man.
listen, I love San Antonio. You got real food. It's not in a food truck. It's in a building. Like Austin, everything's
Or
in
at your friend's house.
Oh, yeah. Your wife cooks a mean motherfucking meal, dude.
And I could see you hooking up with some beautiful
Listen,
Mexican woman here in San Antonio.
no woman would treat you better than a Hispanic woman. If you're loyal to her, you're hearing Mexicanos, if you're loyal, she'll be fucking dog loyal. Believe me, I don't have a problem with that.
I keep telling JB.
I'm putting my worm suicide hat on. Yeah, this is for my friends in worm suicide, Pablo.
Thank you so much for everything you've shared today. I'm so glad that we were able to do this because I know that it will resonate and ring around the world. I know that many people are going to hear this and be in deep thought. And I know that this conversation and this moment will live on forever, long after you and I are gone. I also want to say thank you for letting me listen to the new MOD today and for singing it for me. And people out there, let me tell you, this new MOD record that's going to come out is going to be so fucking heavy and brutal and great. I heard 5 songs today, and every song was fucking great, bro.
Yeah, they're ripping.
They're fucking amazing.
Listen, I'm very proud of every record I've ever done. Even the USA for MOD record, which is half my stuff. But, you know, I recently did the Busted Broken American record, which was great. But this is a different level of old school. This is a record that I wanted to do a long time ago, which is to say thank you to the era of 1985.
I think you hit it right on the head, my friend.
Yeah, it's pretty ripping.
It's going to be amazingly successful. And for all you European record labels out there who have had a chance to hear it too, you better sign it right away because somebody else is going to sign it before you and you're going to be kicking yourself in the ass. Thank you so much, Billy Milano.
Gracias, hermano.
Thank you so much, everybody. Remember, how can you forget the man, Billy Milano? You saw him only right here on Robbs MetalWorks.
Gracias.